Welcome to Heartbreaker, your love radio.
Amanda looked out the window of the small house she shared with Roberto, her husband of 10 years. The simple life, marked by financial struggles, was beginning to weigh on her shoulders. That was when she met Carlos, a man of means and grand promises. I deserve more, as she thought, seduced by the opportunities Carlos' money could offer. Determined, Amanda felt it was time to take a drastic step in search of a better life. The conversation with Roberto was not easy. She called him to sit in the living room, her heart pounding. Roberto, I need to tell you something, as she began, trying to stay calm. I met someone else, and I've decided to leave. Roberto, stunned, could only stammer, Amanda, what's happening? The words betrayal and cheating wife echoed in his mind. Roberto tried to argue, his hands trembling with nervousness. Amanda, we have a history, we built everything together. Don't throw it all away for a whim, he pleaded. But Amanda was adamant. I want more than this simple life, Roberto. Carlos can give me that, as she said, her words cutting like a knife. The look in her eyes was cold and distant. Amanda packed her bags quickly, Roberto's gaze fixed on her like a shadow. You're making a mistake, Amanda, he said, his voice full of pain. You will regret this. But she did not respond. She simply turned her back, taking with her the hopes of a shared future. The silence in the house was suffocating after her departure. In the new life with Carlos, Amanda was initially dazzled by the luxury. Expensive dinners, trips, and gifts became routine. She felt she had finally made the right choice. I knew I deserved more, as she repeated to herself as she admired the view from Carlos' high-rise apartment. Everything seemed perfect, but something was about to change. However, a doubt began to grow in the back of her mind. Carlos was affectionate, but also controlling. Amanda, sign this agreement, he requested one day, placing a document in her hands. It was a prenuptial agreement. It's just a formality, he said with a smile. Reluctantly, but not wanting to spoil the moment, Amanda signed. Life continued, seemingly perfect. Amanda ignored the small warning signs. You don't need to worry about money, Amanda, Carlos often said. However, the security she felt was superficial. In moments of silence, the image of Roberto and the word revenge crossed her mind, reminding her of her choices. Unknowingly, Amanda had thrown herself into a new type of prison, different but equally suffocating. Each day was an attempt to reaffirm to herself that she had made the right choice. But deep down, unease was growing. Was Roberto right? She thought, as the world around her continued to shine, but her heart began to feel the weight of the consequences of her actions. Roberto couldn't believe what was happening. Amanda, his dedicated wife, was really leaving him for another man. That night, he decided he needed to confront her one last time. Amanda, we need to talk, he said, his voice laden with sadness and anger. Amanda, with her bags packed, looked at him with a bored expression. Are you really leaving me for money? Roberto asked, trying to stay calm. What happened to the woman I knew and loved? Amanda sighed, tired of the same questions. I deserve more than this simple life, Roberto. Carlos can give me what you never could, as she responded, without emotion. The word gold digger hung in the air. Roberto felt a wave of frustration and despair. Amanda, you're being naive. Do you think money will solve all your problems? He asked, trying to make her understand. Amanda shook her head, impatient. I'm not being naive, I'm being practical. You'll see that I'm right, as she said, already heading for the door. You will bitterly regret this decision, Roberto said, his voice rising. Carlos doesn't love you, he's only interested in showing power. And when he gets tired of you, where will you be? Amanda paused for a moment, but didn't respond. Instead, she opened the door and left, leaving Roberto alone with his words of warning. That night, Roberto stayed awake, reflecting on everything that had happened. He felt betrayed, not just by Amanda but by the life he had built with her. How could she do this to me? He thought, the word betrayal pulsing in his mind. Determined to move forward, he promised himself he wouldn't let this pain destroy him. Amanda, on the other hand, tried to ignore Roberto's words. She repeated to herself that she was doing the right thing. I deserve more, as she said, trying to convince herself of her decision. But Roberto's words echoed in her mind, casting a shadow of doubt. She shook her head, refusing to let these thoughts disrupt her new beginning. In the days that followed, Roberto threw himself into work, trying to fill the void left by Amanda. He knew he needed to pull himself together, not just for himself but to show Amanda that she was wrong. I'll prove that she made a mistake, he thought, determined to transform his life. The pain of loss slowly began to turn into a motivating force. Meanwhile, Amanda enjoyed the luxuries that Carlos offered, but she couldn't forget Roberto's words. Was he right? She wondered, while admiring the expensive gifts. But each time this doubt arose, she pushed it away, trying to convince herself that she had made the right choice. Yet deep down, the uncertainty began to grow, setting the stage for future revelations. Amanda's wedding to Carlos was a luxurious event, full of glamour and ostentation. All of Carlos' friends were present, admiring his new wife. Amanda felt like she was in a fairy tale, surrounded by wealth she had never imagined. Finally, I'm living the life I've always dreamed of, as she thought, smiling for the cameras. Everything seemed perfect, but Carlos had a plan. A few days before the wedding, Carlos called Amanda for a serious conversation. Love, there's something I need you to sign, he said, handing her a document. Amanda frowned in surprise. What is this? She asked. It's a prenuptial agreement. Just a formality to protect my assets in case something happens, Carlos explained, trying to sound casual. Amanda hesitated. I didn't know we needed such an agreement, Amanda said, feeling a pang of discomfort. Carlos smiled, trying to ease the tension. It's just to ensure everything is clear between us. It doesn't change anything in our relationship, he assured her. With some reluctance, Amanda signed the document, trying to convince herself it was just a practical measure. The word gold digger echoed in her mind. The wedding went off without any further incidents, and Amanda immersed herself in her new life of luxury. Carlos was generous, showering her with gifts and pampering her. I knew I made the right choice, as she thought, as she paraded around in her new dresses and jewelry. But in moments of silence, the memory of signing that prenuptial agreement haunted her. Had she done something wrong? Carlos, on the other hand, felt satisfied with the outcome. He admired Amanda but knew he needed to protect his fortune. And now we are secure, he thought, watching his wife adapt to her new life. For him, the agreement was a guarantee that his wealth would remain intact, no matter what the future held. Gradually, their relationship began to show signs of superficiality. As the months passed, Amanda noticed subtle changes in Carlos' behavior. He became increasingly controlling, questioning her decisions and monitoring her spending. Why did you buy this? He would occasionally ask. Amanda began to feel like a prisoner in a gilded cage. The luxury that once enchanted her now seemed like a burden. Despite the tensions, Amanda tried to maintain appearances. Everything is fine, as she told herself, trying to ignore the warning signs. But deep down, she felt increasingly isolated and regretful. Roberto's words about regret began to make sense. Did I make the wrong choice? She wondered as doubts grew. The life of luxury was not filling the emptiness in her heart. Meanwhile, Roberto moved on with his life, focused on his career and his own happiness. He learned about Amanda's wedding but decided not to let it affect him. She made her choice, he thought, concentrating on his future. The pain of betrayal had turned into determination. He was determined to show that he could be happy without her, leaving the wounds of the past behind. Roberto's life began to take an unexpected turn after the separation. At first, the pain of Amanda's betrayal consumed him, but he found strength in adversity. Focused on his work, Roberto secured a significant promotion at the company where he worked. Finally, something is going right, he thought as he celebrated with colleagues. The extra money brought new opportunities and hope. With the promotion, Roberto decided to invest in professional development courses. He wanted to ensure he would never again be emotionally dependent on someone. I'm going to become the best in my field, he promised himself. His efforts did not go unnoticed, and soon he began to be recognized as one of the best professionals in the industry. Financial success reflected his dedication and resilience. Besides his career, Roberto also started taking better care of himself. He began a routine of exercise and healthy eating, something he had always postponed during the marriage. It's time to think about myself, he said as he completed a morning run. Gradually, he felt stronger and more confident. The physical transformation accompanied the emotional transformation, bringing a long-desired balance. The new life also brought new friendships. Roberto started attending social events and meeting interesting people. You seem like a different person, an old friend remarked, impressed by the change. Among these new relationships, there was a special interest in Anna, a co-worker who had always supported him. The friendship grew, and Roberto began to feel something deeper. Anna was everything Amanda was not, understanding, kind, and loyal. You inspire me to be a better person, Roberto told her during a lunch. Anna smiled, appreciating the sincerity. Casual meetings became frequent, and soon the two were inseparable. The love that blossomed was based on mutual respect and admiration, something Roberto had never experienced before. While Roberto thrived, Amanda faced the first signs that her new life was not so perfect. Carlos's financial worries became evident, and she found herself increasingly pressured to maintain an appearance of happiness. Maybe Roberto was right, as she thought, but tried to push those thoughts away. The constant comparison with her old life began to erode her tranquility. Roberto, on the other hand, was at peace with his past. He had learned to value himself and not depend on others' approval. A true happiness comes from within, he reflected, observing the personal growth he was experiencing. Amanda's words about money and status no longer had power over him. He felt free and ready for any challenge that might come. Roberto's success became evident to everyone around him. He bought a new apartment, comfortable and modern, symbolizing his new phase of life. I did it, he thought, looking at the view from the balcony. The wounds of the past had healed, and he was ready to move on, leaving Amanda and the betrayal in the past. Life had taken a surprising and positive turn. 2 years after the wedding, Amanda's life took an unexpected turn. Carlos, who always seemed so robust and healthy, fell ill suddenly. The doctors were perplexed, and within a few weeks, he passed away. Amanda was devastated, not only by the loss of her husband, but by the fear of what would come next. How am I going to survive now? She thought, remembering the prenuptial agreement. Carlos's funeral was a grand event, filled with important figures and emotional tributes. Amanda, dressed in black, felt like a stranger among those who once were her friends. Do they know I have nothing? She wondered as she accepted condolences. The wealth that surrounded her seemed more distant than ever. Reality began to cruelly set in. A few days after the funeral, Amanda was called by Carlos's lawyer. Sitting in a cold, impersonal room, she heard the words she feared the most. According to the prenuptial agreement, you are not entitled to any part of the inheritance, the lawyer said in a neutral tone. Amanda felt the ground collapse beneath her feet. But I was his wife for 2 years, she exclaimed, incredulous. Unfortunately, the laws are clear, the lawyer responded, showing no empathy. Carlos wanted to ensure his fortune remained untouched. Amanda left the office feeling more alone than ever. The words betrayal and gold digger echoed in her mind. She had traded a marriage based on love for a life of empty luxuries and now had nothing. The choice she had made seemed more bitter than ever. Without Carlos's financial support, Amanda was forced to sell the few valuable belongings she had. Jewelry, expensive clothes, everything was put up for sale. I never thought it would come to this, as she murmured as she closed humiliating deals. The word revenge crossed her mind as she struggled to stay afloat. The life of luxuries she had so desired was crumbling. As Amanda faced this new reality, the image of Roberto constantly returned to her mind. He was right all along, as she thought, with a mix of regret and longing. The pride that had prevented her from listening to his warnings now seemed like an unbearable burden. Amanda knew she needed help but feared rejection. The idea of seeking out Roberto seemed increasingly inevitable. The friends who once surrounded her disappeared along with Carlos's fortune. Amanda was completely alone, with no one to turn to. The loneliness was overwhelming, and each day felt like an endless battle. I need to find a way out, as she told herself, trying to gather strength. The regret for past choices consumed her, and the need for redemption grew. Desperate, Amanda finally decided that there was only one person who could help her. Even though she knew it would be difficult, she gathered the courage to look for Roberto. And maybe he'll listen to me, as she thought, with a heavy heart. The idea of facing the man she had betrayed was terrifying, but the need for redemption and survival was stronger. Amanda was about to face one of the most difficult moments of her life. Amanda was helpless. Without Carlos's financial resources and with her meager savings depleted, reality became unbearable. She lost her house, being forced to live with an acquaintance while trying to find a job. How did I get to this point? She reflected bitterly. The luxurious life she once aspired to now seemed like a distant and unreal dream. Each day, Amanda's situation grew more desperate. She tirelessly searched for work, but without relevant qualifications, doors closed on her. I can't go on like this, as she thought, as she saw her few options disappear. The memory of Roberto and the stable life they had built together would not leave her in peace. I need to talk to him, as she decided, with a heavy heart. Summoning all the courage she had left, Amanda went to the old house she once shared with Roberto. The sight of the place brought a flood of memories and regrets. Will he even see me? She wondered, hesitating at the door. With a deep sigh, she rang the doorbell. The sound echoed through the house, and Amanda felt her heart race. The hope mixed with fear was almost unbearable. Roberto opened the door, and for a moment, both stood in silence, surprised by the unexpected visit. Amanda? She asked, with a mix of shock and curiosity. What are you doing here? Amanda, fighting back tears, began to explain. I made a huge mistake, Roberto. I need your help, as she said, her voice breaking. The word forgiveness was implied in every syllable. Roberto listened attentively as Amanda poured out her heart. She told him about Carlos's death, losing everything, and struggling to survive. I have nothing left, Roberto. I need a chance to start over, as she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. Roberto, still hurt by the betrayal, felt a mix of pity and anger. You left me for money, Amanda, he replied firmly. Desperate, Amanda fell to her knees, clutching Roberto's hand. I know I was a cheating and greedy wife. But please give me a chance to make things right, as she begged, sobbing. Roberto, feeling the weight of the situation, took a deep breath. Stand up, Amanda, he said, softening his tone. I need to think. This isn't easy for me. The hesitation in his eyes was evident. With a broken heart, Amanda stood up, awaiting Roberto's decision. I understand, Roberto. And even if you can't forgive me, I needed to try, as she said, resigned. Roberto, still processing everything, nodded. I'll think about what you said. For now, you can stay here while I decide, he stated, opening a small door of hope. Amanda felt a slight relief. In the days that followed, Amanda tried to show Roberto that she was truly remorseful. She helped with household chores and tried to be as discreet as possible. Roberto, observing her actions, began to see signs of change. Has she really learned her lesson? He pondered. The forced coexistence opened space for new conversations and reflections, setting the stage for the next step in this complex story. Amanda, living temporarily with Roberto, knew she needed to face the most difficult moment, sincerely asking for forgiveness. She decided she could not delay any longer. Roberto, can we talk?" she said, entering the room where he was reading. Roberto looked up, curious and cautious. "Sure, Amanda. What do you want to say?" he asked, putting the book aside. She approached slowly, feeling the weight of each step. "I know I hurt you deeply," as she began, her voice trembling. "I was a gold digger, lured by the glitter of money and forgetting what truly matters." Roberto remained silent, allowing her to continue. "I made a terrible mistake, and I don't expect you to forgive me easily," Amanda said, tears in her eyes. Amanda fell to her knees before Roberto, begging for a second chance. "Please, Roberto, forgive me. I realized too late what truly matters," as she said, holding his hand. Roberto, visibly moved, pulled away slightly. Do you know how much you hurt me, Amanda?" he asked, his voice filled with pain. "Everything we built together, you threw away for money." Amanda nodded, crying. "I know, Roberto. And I regret my choices every day. But I'm here now, willing to change and regain your trust, if you'll let me," as she said, her voice full of remorse. Roberto sighed, feeling torn. "It's hard to simply forget the past, Amanda," he said, looking at her with a mix of anger and compassion. In the following days, Amanda continued to show her remorse through actions. She took care of the house, prepared meals, and tried to be a positive presence. Roberto watched in silence, struggling with his own feelings. Does she deserve a second chance? He wondered, seeing her effort. The forced cohabitation began to soften the barriers between them. One night, while having dinner, Amanda broke the silence. "Roberto, I know I may never be able to fix what I did, but I want to try. I want to prove that I can be better for you and for myself," as she said, looking him in the eyes. Roberto pondered for a moment before responding. "Amanda, I'll be honest. I still don't know if I can trust you again, but I see that you're trying," he admitted. Amanda felt a spark of hope in Roberto's words. "Thank you for giving me this chance to try, Roberto. I won't waste it," as she promised, determined. Roberto nodded, still cautious but willing to see how things would unfold. "Let's see how things go, Amanda. But know that it won't be easy," he warned, making it clear that the road to forgiveness would be long. Amanda knew there was still a long way to go, but she was willing to do whatever it took. "I won't give up, Roberto. I'll prove that I can be the person you deserve," as she said with conviction. And so, with small steps, Amanda began to rebuild the trust she had destroyed, seeking redemption and a new chance alongside Roberto. The journey was just beginning. After weeks of living together and trying to make amends, Amanda felt it was time to know the truth. "Roberto, can we talk again?" she asked nervously. Roberto, seated in the armchair, nodded with a serious look. "Sure, Amanda. What do you want to discuss?" she asked, already anticipating what was coming. Amanda took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I need to know if you can forgive me and if there is a chance for us," Amanda said, her voice trembling. Roberto looked at her intently, pondering her words. "Amanda, you betrayed me in a way I never thought possible. You traded our love for money, and that is something hard to forget," he replied, his voice firm and cold. Amanda felt a knot in her stomach. "I know I made a mistake, Roberto. But I'm willing to do anything to prove that I've changed," Amanda insisted, tears in her eyes. Roberto shook his head, his expression hardening. "It changed? After everything that happened, do you think a simple apology is enough?" she asked, rising from the armchair. "You don't deserve my forgiveness, Amanda. Not after everything." The humiliation in Roberto's voice was palpable. "You destroyed what we had because of your greed. You are a gold digger, and you always will be," he said with disdain. Amanda felt her heart break even more. Please, Roberto, I'm trying," as she whispered, almost inaudibly. Trying what?" "To fix what can't be fixed." Roberto retorted, with a look of contempt. "I rebuilt my life without you, and I'm better now." "I don't need you for anything," Roberto continued, his voice firm. "You made your choice, Amanda, and now you have to live with the consequences." Amanda, feeling completely devastated, just nodded silently. "I just wanted a chance to start over," as she murmured, almost without strength. Roberto stepped forward, looking directly into Amanda's eyes. "A start over? After everything you did?" "Don't be naive," he said with a harsh tone. "You are reaping what you sowed, and nothing can change that." Amanda felt smaller than ever, his words cutting like blades. "I understand," as she said, her voice choked with emotion. Roberto's decision was clear and irrevocable. "You need to leave, Amanda. There is no more place for you in my life," he declared, pointing to the door. Amanda, tears streaming down her face, stood up and headed for the exit. "I'm sorry, Roberto," as she said before leaving through the door. The silence that followed was crushing, and she knew she had lost her last chance. Amanda walked the streets, feeling the weight of rejection and humiliation. She knew she would have to start over from scratch, without Roberto's support. "I need to find a new path," as she thought, with a broken heart. The lesson was bitter but necessary. The choices she made had led her to this point, and now, more than ever, she needed to find the strength to rebuild herself alone. Amanda left Roberto's house with a heavy heart and a mind full of regrets. Each step felt like an eternity as she reflected on the decisions that had led her to this point. "I threw it all away for an illusion of wealth," as she thought, feeling the bitter reality of her choices. The streets, which once seemed full of opportunities, now felt cold and desolate. The life of luxury she had longed for had crumbled like sand between her fingers. Returning to the small room she rented, Amanda felt the full impact of her new reality. The space was simple, almost austere, a stark contrast to the days of opulence with Carlos. "I traded all of this for a false promise," as she murmured as she organized her few possessions. The memories of the golden days with Carlos now seemed like a distant dream. The word revenge echoed in her mind, but it was directed at herself. Without resources, Amanda had to take on humble jobs to survive. Washing dishes in a restaurant and cleaning houses, she struggled to get by. "I never thought my life would end up like this," as she reflected, scrubbing a kitchen floor. Each day was a battle, each task a painful reminder of her fall. The promises of a better life had turned into a daily nightmare. Nights were the worst. Alone in her room, Amanda would replay her choices over and over. "How could I have been so blind?" she asked herself, recalling each moment of her decision to leave Roberto. Loneliness was her constant companion, and regret was an unbearable burden. The vision of Roberto's disappointed face haunted her dreams, and the word betrayal was a constant reminder of her failure. In moments of despair, Amanda thought about seeking help again. But each attempt at reconciliation with friends and family resulted in closed doors. "You made your bed, now lie in it," as some said without pity. The humiliation was a constant poison, eroding her self-esteem. Amanda realized she was completely alone and needed to find a way to rise on her own. Gradually, Amanda began to accept her circumstances. "I can't change the past, but I can learn from it," as she thought, trying to find some meaning in her suffering. Over time, she began to see her mistakes as valuable lessons. Each challenge overcome was a small victory, each day faced a testament to her resilience. The pain was still there, but Amanda was determined to become stronger. Eventually, Amanda found the strength to move forward. She enrolled in a night course, trying to improve her skills and increase her chances for a better future. "I can still change my life," as she told herself, clinging to any hope. The memories of Roberto and Carlos did not leave her, but now they served as motivation. Amanda wanted to prove, mainly to herself, that she could start over. Amanda's journey was far from over, but she was willing to face any obstacle. "I'm not the same person who made those bad choices," as she affirmed, looking to the future with a new sense of determination. The scars of her actions still hurt, but they were also a testament to her ability to survive. Amanda knew the road ahead would be difficult, but she was ready for each step, determined to rebuild her life brick by brick. As time went on, Amanda found herself deeply reflecting on her choices. Each moment of hardship, each tear shed, served as a mirror to her soul. "I was so blind," as she thought, as she walked the streets that once symbolized her downfall. The lessons she learned were harsh but necessary. She began to realize the true value of the things she once despised. The memories of her life with Roberto became clearer, less idealized, but full of meaning. "He truly loved me, not for who I could be, but for who I was," Amanda reflected, feeling a mixture of longing and regret. She understood, too late, that true love cannot be measured by material wealth. The real riches were in the simple moments they shared. Working hard to rebuild her life, Amanda began to appreciate things she had previously overlooked. Honesty, loyalty, and humility became her new pillars. "I was a cheating wife, but I can become a better person," as she promised herself. The bitter experiences transformed into wisdom, guiding her daily actions. Amanda was determined not to repeat the mistakes of the past. The journey of self-discovery was long and painful, but also profoundly transformative. Amanda learned to forgive herself, an essential step to moving forward. "I can't change what happened, but I can use it to grow," as she thought. The guilt that once crushed her began to dissipate. The word betrayal still weighed on her mind, but now it was a reminder of what to overcome. Amanda also dedicated herself to helping others, seeing it as a form of redemption. She volunteered at organizations that supported people in difficult situations, offering a friendly shoulder and a word of encouragement. "I know what it means to fall and get back up," as she would say to those who needed to hear it. Each act of kindness was a way to rebalance her own failures, to find peace with herself. Roberto, on the other hand, moved on with his life, but the memories of Amanda and her betrayal never completely disappeared. He found happiness with Anna, who offered him the love and stability he always desired. Wounds heal, but the lessons remain, Roberto thought, grateful to have found a new path. He hoped that Amanda had found some form of redemption. In moments of silence, Amanda reflected on the complexity of love and human character. A loving is more than words or promises, it's action, it's constant care, as she acknowledged. Life had taught her in a hard way that true character reveals itself in moments of adversity. And although she had lost much, Amanda knew she had gained a valuable perspective on what truly matters. Looking to the future, Amanda was determined to live according to the values she had rediscovered. "I may not have everything I wanted, but I have myself renewed and strengthened," as she thought, with a new sense of purpose. The journey had been difficult, full of pain and learning, but Amanda was ready for whatever came next. And so, her story transformed from a tragedy of betrayal into a tale of redemption and self-discovery.